Hello to everybody. I'm really happy to greet all the participants of International Conference on Science and Technology Research. My name is Liudmyla Gryzun. I'm a full professor of Information Systems Department. I'm happy to represent here Simon Kuznets Kharkiv National University of Economics from Kharkiv City, Ukraine. The topic of my keynote presentation today is interactive methods for blended learning implementation, exactly experience of potential IT specialist training. So within my presentation, I'd like to cover urgency of the research, theoretical framework, experience of blended learning activities, enhancing with interactive methods, and also results and discussion in terms of the students' learning motivation. As for the blended learning concept, nowadays it is widely used and widely discussed by researchers and practitioners. And according to studies, the concept of blended learning is understood as a combination of in-person education and online opportunities, when materials are presented and worked out online, but with the typical classroom spirit. Despite the great advantages of blended learning, there are also distinguished core challenges of successful implementation of blended learning into the real life and daily life of education. And according to my own personal experience, the core challenges of blended learning are connected or are focused on adding classroom spirit into online classes, involving students into active forms of work, and finally raising students' learning motivation. Because under pandemic times and during the war conflict, according to my own observation, the students got really demotivated and depressed, and it's really important nowadays to retain their attention, to raise their motivation to attend classes and to be involved into the activity, and finally to go on studying, to continue working in order to obtain final results and the goals of their life and education. In this context, a great deal of interactive methods implementation seems to be important and seems to be beneficial. The theoretical framework of the work is made by main characteristics of blended learning and its typical tutoring techniques, basic didactic approaches to the mastering of different curriculum disciplines by potential IT specialists, and fundamentals of motivation theory. Among common blended learning models, we can distinguish online driver, flex model, rotation model, and some others. For current situation in our national universities and at my university itself, blended model is delivered in the form of the distant learning in the Moodle-like platform with Zoom online classes according to a common schedule. At the same time, typical blended learning activities are implemented, such as flipped learning, gamification, digital storytelling, and etc. However, these typical blended learning techniques are not sufficient and do not work well in order to at least retain students' motivation to learning. So they must be enhanced with some interactive techniques. Among them, we can call lectures of selected kinds, game method, debate methods, group solution methods, and some others. As for types of interactivity, So we can distinguish basic three types of it, so-called student learning object or content type of interactivity, student-teacher type, students-teacher type that expects involving the students into the interaction among themselves and individual student with other students in the group, in the presence of the teacher or without him in real time. It's clear that the third type of interactivity is the most productive one, and actually we try to focus exactly on realization of this type of interactivity. Now I'd like to cover some selected examples of blended learning enrichment with interactive methods in the process of IT specialist training with the mastering of different educational courses and subjects. For example, flipped learning activity was enriched with interactive techniques in such a way. For example, within the course on UX UI design fundamentals, a flipped learning lecture on the topic of psychological mechanisms of data perception was arranged in the form of online mini conference. They were assigned in advance different tasks to the pairs of students to learn the theoretical material on the features of different data perception, to find out proper examples which illustrates peculiarities of human vision, to elaborate presentation, to take part in the mini conference, both as presenters or experts in this sphere and listeners as well. One of the tasks of a pair of students presenters was to learn psychological background of human perception of exactly textual information. And during online mini conference, it was iteration, presenters, listeners, the presenters or experts, they shared their findings and explained that the efficiency of reading depends in linear way on the amount of characters visible by eyes. They covered the reasons of this fact based on the psychological background and attracted the listener's attention to the paradox of this cognitive and psychological phenomena, because despite their non-smooth nature, our eyes jumps improve our reading abilities. Then during the conference, listeners were encouraged by the presenters and by the teacher to discuss the connection of these findings with the problems of efficient interface design. They were attracted to speculation and making conclusions on the efficiency of perception of isolated words and words connected into the long phrase, the difference between task-driven and content-driven user interface, the typographic decision-making and the interface design, etc. Finally, presenters supported the prepared discussion with the visual examples of the both types of user interface illustrating fruitful and non-fruitful using of these psychological peculiarities. Next blended learning technique was a gamification technique, which was enriched with the team role game activities. The gamification technique will be mostly used within the Classcraft platform, which is quite popular and can be applied for mastering different kinds of subjects. In the terms of role game activities, each student should choose a character, a role of a wizard, healer, etc., with proper skills and cooperatively learn a topic while doing quests. The student applied their skills regarding their role, tried to contribute the best into their team success, doing quest tasks and obtaining different bonuses, which gave the participants various additional opportunities. Finally, they helped their team to achieve common learning result in the most efficient way. In similar way, it was organized also test solving in groups, which also determined students to contribute the best in the common success and raise their confidence, and on the other hand, raise their responsibility. Group work upon real tasks in Figma environment was also extension of a gamification strategy. The progress of learning, for example, how to create a dynamic prototype of the site with the landing pages, the students were assigned special tasks. Imagine that you are a marketing director of a coffee company, which is a new player in the coffee trade market. The company wants to create a site to talk about coffee, about the company, services, offers, and etc. The students were divided into the groups, analytics, developers, testers, according to the roles which are typically fulfilled by designers at the different stages of their prototype development. The teacher encouraged interaction within groups and between groups via debates based on Socratic methods of discussion. For example, debates in analytics group were organized in a similar way. So they were presented, the students were encouraged into the discussion of the questions like this one. Who are potential users of your site? What tasks do the users expect to solve via the site? Which benefits from the user's standpoint can the site interface provide, etc. How can this collected information about users and their potential behavior help the group of developers? Is it essential also for testers group, etc.? So these kind of debates helped promoted understanding of their role in the whole iterative progress of the prototype design, allocation the roles within the group with understanding by each member their own duties, minding responsibilities and scope of necessary interaction with the members of other groups. I'd like to admit that this kind of activity is beneficial to arrange using, for example, Jamboard or other similar digital instrument. In similar way, the debates were arranged in the groups of developers and testers. In the context of gamification strategies implementation, it's also beneficial to involve students in the collaborative development of a gamified product. And in our case, it was involvement students into the group development of computer simulator of the tournaments between the different game algorithms, which realized the winning strategies within the courses of algorithmization and programming. This experience also showed and demonstrated great benefit of such kind of activity upon gamified product. And it is in detail explained and demonstrated in our work. The link you can see at the bottom of the screen. Digital storytelling strategy was enriched with the group activities, and we can show it on the example of the group task, the creation of a comic-based digital story with the didactic purpose to investigate the influence of color palette on the emotional state of a user and the implementation of its impact in the UI development. So on the preparation stage, we enriched this work with the group activities, and it was the discussion of group solution findings. What is the aim of the telling of your story? Who is the target audience? How can you sequence the story with the beginning, middle part, and final plot of the story? Which tools could be used to create your digital comic-based story? All of these positions are relevant to discuss in order to find out best group solutions. After the creation in group of these comic-based digital stories, the groups demonstrated their comics and told their digital stories during online practical classes. Other students were involved into the critical watching of the peers' work, and ready-made digital stories were used as cases that enabled to involve all of the students into productive case studies. The said digital stories can be also successfully used as didactic aids for further generation of students, and for our students it was also a great motive to work productively and raise their responsibility for their work. So the results of our observations, which we provided according to some monitoring program, they showed that applied interactive methods enable the students to feel the classroom atmosphere during online classes, promoted their cognitive eagerness, contributed a lot into development of efficient learning communication, which helped overcome disconnection between them, raised overall academic achievements. But with the aim of analyzing the results of our work in terms of the students' learning motivation, it was provided special survey. And I'd like to say that we analyzed the motivation in terms of psychological and educational dimensions. And according to motivation theory, motivation to learn is understood as the personal efforts which encourage trainees to learning activities, ensure their continuity, concentrated renew on the activities with the aim at achievement of their desired goals. And the most influential factors of the student motivations are attention, appealing to learners' needs and experience, positive attitude, and satisfaction. So based on this data, we designed a survey to evaluate whether the interactive methods introduced into the blended learning activities is in line with said influential factors, and to detect what students' motivation levels are. So this survey consists of 20 items comprising 4 subsections corresponding to the amount of the factors. Each subsection included 5 items to get a feedback from the students on each motivation dimension, like attention, addressing learners' needs, positive attitude, and satisfaction. The survey measures learners' motivation level by applying a 5-point Likert type scale. The scale reliability test was conducted to estimate the result. The reliability of all the 4 scales on the Cronbach alpha was detected as 0.75, which proved an acceptable reliability of the obtained result. Then it was measured the motivation dimensions average score for each of 5 items of subsections, and overall the results you can see on the screen. So also be distinguished 4 motivation levels: high, intermediate, pre-intermediate, and low. And here you can see the percentage of the students who revealed correspondingly high, intermediate, pre-intermediate, and low levels. And we can conclude that high and intermediate, vast majority of students revealed high and intermediate levels of motivation to learning. So we can hope that our strategies was correct and promoted students' motivation. Also, I'd like to emphasize some selected characteristics of our results. So 70% of the students admitted that they attended online classes with desire because they were used to a variety of gripping activities, and the course stimulated their curiosity. Over 50% of trainees admitted that during the course doing, they were involved in the work upon the tasks that demonstrated them how this course material could be useful to them in their potential professional life, which actually proved their appealing to their needs and their experience. 63% of trainees admitted the team interaction during material mastering suggested them confidence in their abilities to succeed in the course. And during online classes, they felt themselves happy as if they worked with their peers in real classroom. And 72% admitted that they were pleased to work on the course in such a friendly and cooperative atmosphere. So for us, these results were really enthusiastic and promising. We are going on our research, I have to say. So in terms of conclusion, I covered almost everything here, the core features of and challenges of blended learning, the ways of enrichment of the blended learning techniques enriched with interactive methods, and the experience of interactive methods, practical realization in the process of some courses mastered by potential IT specialists also were presented. This survey was designed to evaluate whether the interactive methods introducing are in line with the core motivation dimensions and detect the levels of students' learning motivation. The survey reliability was tested and it was revealed its acceptable reliability. In terms of prospects, the obtained results of the conducted survey and our monitoring program may be taken as a basis for holding the full empirical research for the verification of the impact which made the offered blended learning activities enriched with interactive methods on the level of student motivation. And the results of pre-service specialist training, which makes the prospects of our potential research. Thank you for your attention, and I'm ready to answer your questions.